before we kick off, but you are all very welcome to the session on creating an AI-powered sales process. So while people are joining, we're going to do the classic little icebreaker. I would love to hear in the chat where in the world everyone is joining from. So to kick things off, I'm Anna. I will be leading the session today and I manage Hubspot for startups for the UK and Ireland. I am based in Dublin in Ireland. So if anyone wants to join, I know Peter is based in Bali, which is very cool. So if anyone else wants to chime in, and then we will start. So Gibraltar, Tel Aviv, London, nice. The UK, brilliant. So we have a nice global group. And just a bit of housekeeping as well. As you can see, the session is being recorded. We'll use the chat a little bit if I'm asking people questions. But if you do have your own questions, please kind of leave those to the end. You can use the Q&A box and I'll answer those at the end. So yeah, maybe before we get into the main part of the session, Peter, do you want to give a quick welcome and a bit of background on Startup Grind?
Absolutely. Thank you, Anna, for hosting us. And hello, everybody. My name is Peter, or Prem, as some people know me. I'm actually tuning in from Bali, Indonesia today. It's lovely here. It's very warm. But I've been with Startup Grind for many, many years, and I've been traveling around the world supporting communities. And I've over the years found that a lot of startups struggle to scale, struggle to grow, and mostly because of the sales skills. And so what I found is if we use good tools like HubSpot, we can actually really scale easily and fastly and could have more conversions and just kind of connect to people on a deeper level, understand them, have more clarity who are our customers and then have basically better net promoter scores. So when we first Startup Grind joined forces with HubSpot, we said like, well, this is absolutely great because we as Startup Grind, we always like to bring value to our community. And for you who don't know, Startup Grind has been one of the world's largest communities of entrepreneurs with 700 cities, 5 million entrepreneurs on the platform. We've been running for almost 15 years. And our main goal is to educate and inspire every single entrepreneur on this planet. So what better way to do it when team up with someone amazing like HubSpot and deliver these sorts of educational materials where we honor our values to give first, then take, to make friends, not contacts, and help others and ourselves. So I'm very pleased to be at this webinar. Thank you, Anna, for hosting us. Thank you for sharing this amazing tool. I think we live in the age of AI, and a lot of people are investing in AI, but they're not actually getting benefits from it yet, unless you use some of these tools, unless you work with the use cases that are successful. And I'm so curious to learn more about what are those successful case studies that you're going to share today. What are the kind of the ways that we can map our journey, customer journeys, how we can automate those, how we can get AI to learn better from our customers, how we can basically just make our customers happier. So that's all I have to share, but I'm here throughout the webinar. If you have any questions or anything, I've been a big advocate of AI, vertical AI, ethical AI for many years in London. So I'm so curious to see this webinar, and I hope you're all gonna get really useful things for it. So thank you, Anna.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And yeah, thanks to anyone who's just joined as well. So for those of you who didn't hear earlier, I'm Anna. I am head of UK and Ireland for HubSpot for Startups. And I think our goals are really aligned to what Peter just said in Startup Grind, really around education. So my goal is really to help startups to grow better with access to the right kind of knowledge, tools, and connections needed to scale. And an important way we do that is partnering with startup communities such as Startup Grind, VCs, accelerators, incubators, and really to educate their communities on, sales, marketing, and fundraising. So I'll tell you a little bit more about HubSpot for startups in a minute, but that's, yeah, a really important part of what we do. So in terms of the agenda for today, so we'll be going into, I'll give you a little bit more of an overview on HubSpot and HubSpot for startups, just to set that context. Then we'll be going into mapping your sales process. So all of the session will be based on, AI, but just to set some of the foundations, I want to just start with thinking about how you're mapping your own sales process as it pertains to, your specific business model, your persona, etc. Then we're going into a few top use cases for AI in sales. I will be going into kind of the broader overview and then getting a bit more granular because I do think it can be quite overwhelming out there. There are a lot of tools, a lot of things you can do with, but I'm a firm believer in, walking before you run. So just kind of how to really get started there, or if you're in a more mature stage for, adopting AI in your sales process, we'll also have some tips there as well. Just to bring things to life, I will also show you bring this, make it a bit more practical and show you a few tools within HubSpot and how we've embedded AI across our platform. So you can think of this more as a strategy. So whether you use HubSpot or you use different tools, it's just like to show you practically how this kind of, you could really implement this in your business. And then we'll be going into questions. So the session today is due to end at 12. So we'll do about, 35 to 40 minutes of content. And then I do want to leave time for questions. If we can't get to all of them or we run out of time, like happy to take answers via email as well. And I can share my details. So just very quickly on HubSpot and HubSpot for startups. So for those of you who don't know, HubSpot is a full AI-powered customer platform. So we have everything that a scaling startup needs to really power your sales, marketing, and services. So, yeah, we'll be talking a bit more about the sales side today, but just to give that context that whether you're starting off with a free version or like smaller parts of HubSpot, it really scales with you as you grow. And then something that I see often maybe companies in the earlier stages doing is, using a Excel file or Google Sheets to track prospects and mentors and investors. And then maybe you need a tool for newsletters, so you get something for that. You need something for your pipeline, so you get something for that. And the list really grows and grows. And that's fine in the early days, but as you scale as a company, that data is in disparate systems. It's really hard to, and it really like the the kind of the blood of AI or it is like having good data. So having that all in one system and being able to really act on those that like structured and unstructured data is really what will help you. So having that in one kind of centralized system is really a game changer. So I mentioned a little bit about my role, but just a bit more about HubSpot for startups. So we offer education, so webinars and also in-person events across kind of sales, marketing, and services. Sales, marketing, and fundraising. I cover UK and Ireland, but we are a global team. We also do a huge amount of kind of free startup resources on those topics as well. And then last but not least, we have discounts on HubSpot of up to 90% and offers from other providers as well. So we'll be sharing this afterwards, but there's a very quick QR code. But yeah, just to get into kind of the main part of the session today then. So as I mentioned, I will be going into AI and the importance of that, but just to really set the scene in terms of thinking about how you can map your sales process. And just to preface this by saying this is more a B2B sales process, just for like in terms of like time and how much time we have today, rather than obviously, with the B2C that can be more, unless depending on the model, can be more of a transactional sales process, unless you're depending on the type of B2C company that you are, because there could be B2C companies with longer customer journeys. But just to say, this does pertain more to a B2B company. But again, you can customize this and kind of take best practice from this, no matter what your company does. So just to kind of think about, I'm just going to go through like kind of 6 steps, and then I'll be going into how you can kind of use AI throughout all of this. So when we think about prospecting, this is really the process of sourcing new early stage leads to begin working through your sales process. The tempting thing when you're an earlier stage company is to, someone might reach out to you. You want to, you're so focused on getting sales and getting your first early stage customers. And you obviously want to get all that user feedback. And it can be tempting to sell to everyone. But a bad customer can take up a lot of your time. Or if it's like a massive enterprise customer, that maybe they're like, you actually don't even have the bandwidth as a company to support that, right? Like, so just really thinking in that prospecting stage is going back to like, and we've talked about this for years. I just do think buyer personas are still very important in terms of that kind of prospecting stage as well, and who you're going after. Then we want to think about connecting and qualifying early. So this is really initiating contact with these prospects. So this could be, by LinkedIn, by phone. You might be going up to them at a conference. It could be in-person engagement as well. It could be an email. And qualifying early, meaning, I do think golden rules in sales really being qualify, qualify, qualify. Like if, especially again, as a startup, you don't want to waste your time on someone if it's not the right timing for them, or they don't have the budget at all, or, maybe you qualifying that you're speaking to the wrong person early on. So really just thinking of that, and that will really save you a lot of time. So I'd actually argue that this qualification stage is like pretty much the the most important, if not one of the most important steps in that sales process as well. Then we go into kind of the research and discovery stage. So this is really understanding the key challenges of this person's industry, identifying the needs of their business, and discovering the plans and goals of the business. So at this stage, you're really doing your own research and also asking the prospect questions, and you're not really trying to overly sell your solution yet. You're really spending time on the discovery and the pain points, so then you can map your solution to their like very unique needs. Then we go into presenting. So this is really trying to present the key areas your product can help your prospect to achieve, kind of those pain points that you've, previously identified. So, and this is again something AI can help with, which I'll go into, is like having that, you'll have the context of the research you've done online on the business and the research that you've done in that custom conversation with that contact as well. So really being able to customize and personalize that sales process, both in the conversations and through AI as well. Then we go into handling objections. So this is really listening to your prospects' questions and objections to tailor your product fit to their needs and goals. So oftentimes we'll say for something like HubSpot, oftentimes there are objections around something like price, or there might be, they have certain guardrails internally for their buying process. It could be a myriad of different objections, but there are some very common ones. So you can, prepare for those as you go, and really use, say, for example, you could use AI to analyze the transcripts from your previous call, that previous discovery call, and see like what are some, if there's like underlying hints for what you think the objections might come to be. And then last but not least, moving into the closing stage. So this is really, getting commitments, negotiating contracts, and setting timelines for contract close dates. So this could be closed won or it could be closed lost, but either way, it's really important because a closed lost deal could, that could be something that you could nurture. They might be closed lost because of timing, but you could reopen that account later on. So just take a sip of water. So you think about mapping that sales process. We also want to think about, first of all, these steps. So I've given some pretty like generic steps. It's very much like they're kind of, you can see them laid out here. So prospecting, connecting, etc. But really you want to think about the specific sales process as it's unique to your business, your products, your team. And yeah, it might be that you have different types of sales processes for different buying groups. So say, for example, at HubSpot, you know, for maybe if we're selling to enterprise customers and it's more like a HubSpot enterprise hub, that would be a very different sales process and a longer sales process versus maybe a touchless sale or if we're selling like the starter products or something like that. There are different, as you scale as a business and as you develop your different kind of buyer profiles, you will probably find that there's different sales process and buying motions as well. And equally important as well is, as I've laid out here, sometimes I see the trap that people get caught in, is kind of thinking of themselves and their own business and their own, sellers activities. So you're going, oh, I'm doing this, I'm prospecting, I'm researching. But I think equally important is to really map out what the buyer's activities are in that journey as well. So they're doing their own research on your business. They're, consulting internally. They're thinking about how this, how can, like, what the implementation timeline will be, and maybe how this will help them internally get a promotion or align with teams. So just really think about those buyers' activities as well. I will say that, especially with AI, some of this is really being turned on its head because you can see this issue with specifically with buyers' activities. Like, we used to always talk about in these workshops the whole thing of like, back in the day, was the buyer wasn't in as much control of the sales process and buyers are doing their own research. And I do think that that is more true today than ever because especially now people are doing their own research and they're getting, going into ChatGPT to compare suppliers. And now even I think it's only this week or very recently, anyway, I think it's just this week that ChatGPT announced they have their own browser, similar to Perplexity's Comet. So like people will be increasingly using AI tools to do their own research. So that's a whole other topic that I can send you recordings from a webinar we did in that recently. But you do want to also think of that buyer research section and how you're turning up in search results that people are doing for AI. Because when they're doing research, people are increasingly not going on Google, they're going and using AI tools to do that research as well. But then equally on the seller side, you're using AI to do your research on companies. So just to think through that as well and really yeah, how you can map AI throughout that and use AI for your process as well. So when you think about some elements of a good sales process, this really isn't an exhaustive list. And again, it can depend on your own business. But I will say is you want to have quite clearly, like you can always iterate as you go, especially as an early stage company, you might find that there's certain bottlenecks in a sales process and you want to go back and fix them. You can see people are getting stuck, and maybe there's a way of you making the sales process more efficient. But as a starting point, you do want to see if you can begin with, especially maybe if you're starting to scale your team and you have, maybe it's been founder led sales and now you're starting to, add salespeople. You do want to think of having quite clearly defined deal stages with clear exit criteria. So, are those stages, is it the ones I've laid out there where it's like, traditional ones like discovery, presenting, etc. And what has to happen for a deal to be moved throughout the deal stages? Because, and you can set that up in something in a tool like Hubspot where a deal can't be moved unless a rep answers a question. So have you qualified this or have you out, something like that. So you can automate that at the back end, but just really thinking, because otherwise, that can get quite messy if you don't have any, criteria for moving it. Then you might find that actually deals aren't getting qualified and they're getting to the last stages, and then the buyer has an objection there. So really, just to save you time in the long term, it's good to have clear exit criteria. Match the way the buyer likes to purchase. So it sounds obvious, but if you have a very, like, depending on your persona, you might find that you want to create, again, different sales processes for them, as I mentioned before. So some people, some companies, maybe if it's a smaller business, might want to have the option to buy touchlessly or be able to see some, pre-recorded demos. Maybe they don't want to talk to you, maybe you don't have time. Whereas if you're only selling to enterprise customers, like if you're a fintech company and you're just selling into banks, then that's going to be a very like high touch sales process. So just thinking, always putting the buyer and the the prospect at the center of all of this and really thinking about how they like to purchase. Look for ways to save time, particularly as a startup. So this is what we'll be going into as well as like AI. So I don't see AI as replacing sales reps or replacing startups. I just see it as something you can do to make the most use of the data in your CRM, something you can do to add context and personalization to any of your outreach or your conversations, and ultimately take away a lot of the things that are just wasting your time so you can spend more time on calls with prospects or doing impactful work in other areas of your business. So let's get a sip of water. This is quite a lot, and I'll go into a few like smaller insights soon as well to how to really action this. But right, there are a lot of tools. So when we think of different tools for the sales process, I do think that what I'm seeing is, this has always been important with like, say, like LinkedIn Sales Nav and different tools have been available. But I think buyers' expectations are increasing even more, and people expect really personalized outreach, and you'll get better results if you are thinking of, and again, some of this isn't new. It's like, what are the triggers in the business that would make you want to reach out? Or this could be a trigger as in like someone has recently taken on a head of, in HubSpot, maybe someone has recently taken on a head of marketing job. So maybe they want to use HubSpot, or a company has recently raised funding. So maybe they want to explore HubSpot for startups. So it's things like that, but also knowing if a buyer has, visited your website and that's a good time to reach out. So I do think that these tools are becoming more advanced and easier to use with AI. So just thinking through some of those. Overall, using AI throughout the process for finding prospects. Again, I'll go into some of this in more detail. So outreach and follow up, preparing for calls, note taking. Tools like Clay are becoming more and more popular for data enrichment. Also something we've used, I use quite a lot still is using, and again, this isn't something too new, but using video in your outreach as well. It just can make it a lot more personalized. If you have, a target account and you want to record a quick video for them, you can say, hey, I noticed, say if you're a HubSpot sales rep selling HubSpot, and you could record yourself, going through that company's website and saying, oh, I've seen this is going on. HubSpot can help with X, Y, and Z. Using LinkedIn Sales Navigator and also voice notes on LinkedIn are actually, sometimes I feel like they can be kind of creepy, but also kind of good. Like it can be something different. And I know people use voice notes a lot in their personal life as well. So it can just be something quick, and rather than just reading like blocks of text again. And then there's tools like HeyReach and Ample Market as well, which can be great for really automating that LinkedIn outreach. And then yeah, let's go on. Like what I'm trying to get at here is like these are all different tools you can use, but also having a CRM as your single source of truth to really collect all that data, manage a lot of these tools, and then if you want to like connecting different tools as well to that central source of truth. So, would love to hear from people. What tools do you currently use in your sales process? So I'll give people a minute, just would like the group to learn from each other. If there's interesting new tools maybe I haven't heard of or the group hasn't heard of. So this could be very simple. It doesn't have to be sophisticated. It could be that you're using LinkedIn a lot. Maybe you're already using HubSpot. You're using Pipedrive. Like it could be anything. So I'll just give people a minute to share in the group. Word of mouth, nice, love that. N8N and HubSpot, events and LinkedIn. Yeah, and I do think in-person events are even more important. Like I know, again, with AI, in-person events and use like getting more creative with marketing in terms of like creator partnerships and stuff. Um, so inbound via networking, LinkedIn, Gong and Granola. Yeah, so someone posted that. as well. So I did, yeah, I had that on the other side, but I do think, yeah, call transcriptions are really helpful. Um, Lindy, N89. Okay, nice. Thanks everyone for sharing. Hopefully, you learn from each other and what you're learning as well. Um, so just as I mentioned, there's like a lot of tools out there. So just to go into some of the top use cases, and before we do that, just to give a little bit of context as well. So in terms of where we are now, so AI adoption sales, this is from some statistics we did on an AI report commissioned by Hubspot for startups, which I can share if people are interested in the full report. But AI adoption sales jumped from 24% to 43% in just 1 year. And whereas marketing teams are at a 74% adoption rate, which is interesting because in my role, I actually do sit under the marketing org within HubSpot, but we're kind of at the intersection of marketing and sales because we're in a partnerships role. So I did see when, all the advances in Gen AI happened, everyone in marketing was very excited. There was a lot we could quickly do to have a quick time to value with content creation, but then it wasn't really adopted quite as quickly across sales because you might think like, oh, what else can I use for sales and AI? So so it's just an important one as well. So and AI really enables previously impossible scalability. So really being able to reach out at scale again with that kind of context and that sense of personalization as well. And I do think this kind of levels the playing field even more for startups versus established companies. And you can really see how companies are growing like very, very quickly. Like we're having, I don't know if people have used Gamma. That's another handy tool for AI created slide decks. We are hosting their CEO at an event next month, and Gamma grew, it was like 50 million ARR within less than 2 years with like 20 people, something, I don't know, don't quote me on those statistics, but something like that. So it's really being able to have AI is really enabling amazing scalability as well. So in terms of some challenges and scales in sales, so 74% of sales teams say they've reduced their team size, and 83% of sales leaders say productivity is a concern. So a lot of sales professionals' time is spent building connections with prospects, leads, and customers. So really just thinking about how AI can help with some of those challenges. So why this matters for founders is really you have a opportunity to be data driven from day one and really build these processes early on versus maybe a larger company that has to really look back and say, oh, how do we optimize everything we've already done? So being able to have that from the early days and really leverage the data that you have, you can create a really fast time to value and really accelerate your revenue with more efficient sales cycles, again, from the early days. And you can do more with less. So you can really automate a lot of that sales process and, scale without necessarily having a really large headcount. So in terms of, I'll just go through this on this quickly because I'm conscious of time in terms of what founders want. So have it basically just this comes down to having, and again, this is generalized, but having more time for high value activities, especially as a super busy startup. And AI really delivers an increase in time savings overall. It enables customized outreach. And also you can get like valuable insights without like, big research or data science teams. So really being able to scale as a company with these tools is really powerful. So where can AI be used most in a sales process? So when we think about a sales process in kind of this stage, where someone is maybe becoming aware of your product or service and then evaluating and kind of all of that, we can really think about AI being helpful in figuring out, doing the research and really figuring out what targets to reach out to and enabling really hyper personalized outreach as well can be really helpful in that consideration stage as well. So for things like predictive lead scoring and buyer intent, it can also be helpful for analyzing data that you already have. So say, for example, deal risk analysis, so knowing if deals are at risk, and next best action. So just a few kind of things there. So I guess the water. So that's all great, but it can be a bit overwhelming, especially if you're just starting out, or maybe you've tried a bit with ChatGPT, but haven't really started to implement it as much in your business. So when you think about where to start, so a few kind of tips here. So, especially if you haven't already been doing it, thinking, and these are just like four ways I'm going to kind of go through now, is like thinking about automating manual tasks. So, this could be for, data entry, so getting everything in your CRM, note taking, so having a tool like HubSpot does have an internal note taker tool now, but also like there are tools like Granola, and Gong that are really helpful for note taking as well. And things like scheduling and moving upcoming meetings. So just like that very like low hanging fruit, if you're not already doing that with a CRM will really save you a lot of time. Just kind of, yeah, that's kind of the low hanging fruit there. When we think about driving data-driven insights, so again, we can see the stats here are from the report that I mentioned before, which I can share. So this is really around building reporting on, specific prompts. So being able to very quickly build an AI-powered report on, at-risk deals from this month, or if you're trying to find any kind of report you want to build, very quickly building that with AI. You can also use AI to analyze closed won and closed lost deals to really build a more accurate sales forecast. Because especially again, as you scale as a company, I bet it's some of the, forecasts, if they're purely human forecasts, they have less forecast accuracy. Whereas if you have all the data built into that, you can have a more accurate sales forecast. And things like predictive lead scoring as well. So just a few there. To write outreach content, again, I think this is one that is kind of low hanging fruit. So similar to how, marketing has really embraced generative AI, really using AI to have really personalized outreach. So this could be, you could use AI as a thought leader for getting ideas for, how to reach out to someone by doing, research on that company, and then having AI help you write the message. Usually it's not perfect the first time around, you'll need a bit of back and forth on, hey, like it might, you don't want to sound too like AI either. So usually there is a bit of iteration throughout the process. And you can also use AI for translation as well. But just yeah, can be really helpful for outreach content, and something that I personally use a lot for outreach content. And I do a lot of events and that. So definitely very helpful for content creation. Last but not least, and we already mentioned this a little bit, is analyzing sales calls. So it's great to use a conversational tool. Like I think there's a few probably AI note takers in the call as well. It's great to have that, but it's really like thinking of how you actually make like rather how you actually make use of those call transcripts. So it could be for, making sure that you're following up, or referencing past conversations, but also you could use it for, coaching and things like that. So you could say, oh, I spent, or my team member spent, 10 minutes talking about pricing, or they spent too long talking about this. So really being able to gather those insights from customer and prospect calls is really powerful as well. So really, when you think about, this is the product research we did, and kind of some sales specialist top tasks. So if you think about a lot of the work of a sales rep being, outreach, research, having conversations, a lot of that can be done with AI or with different automation tools, or with basically with tech tools. So this does take a lot more of the admin and the manual work from a sales specialist task. And again, gives them more time to actually spend with customers, and more deals ultimately, which means, yeah, more revenue for your startup. So when we think about AI, you don't want to try to, boil the ocean with your AI implementation. It can be tempting to be like, oh, like it's like anything, right? You don't want to try to, as I mentioned, like walk before you run and try to do too many things. Be like, I'm going to do all of this year. I think it's important to move quickly with AI, but at the same time, you want to be realistic. So I would start thinking about like at the start, think about low effort, kind of high impact activities that you can do with AI throughout your sales process that will really have a quick time to value, will help you, get familiar with the tools, but also build a bit of a use case internally as well. So for the kind of the low effort, high impact is things like using AI as a research tool. So, being able to do research on if you're meeting with a company and you want to have all the context on that company, or if you're, yeah, any kind of research to do with that. If it's the first call or the second call, just really being able to use AI as a research tool. For outreach content, which I mentioned a bit, so using it to create hyper personalized outreach content can be really helpful. And again, isn't something very high effort. You can do it very quickly in tools like HubSpot or with, ChatGPT. And then for things like, again, preparing for meetings and call analysis. So just a few kind of low effort, high impact stuff. I think these can be great places to start, but again, it depends on your business because you might already be doing these things. So maybe you want to start from a different baseline, but just really thinking of what you can do quickly to drive impact. And I do think there are some more, high effort, high impact things that you can do. So there are a lot of what I say as well is like there are a lot of tools out there. Like HubSpot has their own, agents that you can just use within HubSpot, so you don't have to create your own. But if you want to create a really, hyper personalized agent that does something very specific for your business, oh, sorry, something's not like there. That can take more time. So, for example, I was at SaaS Doc, I think it was, yeah, last week in Dublin, which is a massive SaaS conference, and the go-to-market lead from OpenAI was on the stage, and she was talking about how they built a custom agent just for OpenAI employees that basically, so that any calls that she had that day, it connected to all of their different systems in OpenAI and would do all of the research on her behalf, like would because sometimes that might live in different systems. So it would give her all of the research for those calls. And then would also, at the end of the day, she could see all of the follow-up actions. So that's something that's more like you can do with AI, like one by one, but in terms of having something more custom built for your company, that can take a bit more time. So just starting to think of, as I said, like kind of low effort, high impact, and then going into more complex agent stuff. And yeah, just kind of some food for thought. So I know we're conscious of time, so just go into a little bit on. I'll show you like maybe kind of one or two of the main tools with HubSpot. So Breeze is essentially HubSpot's AI that powers the entire customer platform. It's designed to be really easy to use, have a fast time to value, and is really powered by your unified data. So again, using all that unstructured data that you have to really power that. So, and again, I'll show you a bit of HubSpot Live, and you can think of this as more of a strategy that you could use with different AI tools or different CRMs. So I'll just give me one sec. So I'll just move into doing a quick demo. So you can see that. Okay. So yeah, I'll just show you a few AI tools within HubSpot. It's really built across the whole platform. So if you are, and you can also use a bunch of, we do have a free version of HubSpot, and some of the AI features are available to use for free as well. So just you could get started today with that if you wanted to. But just one thing that you want to do, first of all, to make sure that AI would be enabled in HubSpot, just to mention, is like you want to go into your settings, AI, and then really enable access so that your users have access to Breeze within HubSpot. So just to mention there. So Breeze is kind of split up between having basically a Breeze assistant throughout all of HubSpot, and then we also have agents which do actions, kind of more do actions on your behalf. So again, for like quick wins, you could use something like Breeze to really to help you kind of have that like, co-pilot for you as you go out throughout your day as a sales rep. So say for example, and this is just a some context in HubSpot. So this is Breeze Assistant. I basically just gone in there. One sec. Sorry, my face was covering it. Um, so you can go into Assistant anytime there, it just props up. And you can either go with like do your own kind of chat one, or there are a bunch of suggested prompts as well to kind of help you. Again, these can both be for like a marketing or a sales use case. So say if we go through we'll just go through a little bit of like the start of what a sales process looks like. So if you're doing, say, for example, research on a company and you want to just very quickly use Breeze to do that. So you could say research, and we'll just say hubspot.com. And you can very quickly have that as well. Just give that a minute to load. My internet's a bit slow. I should have had this preloaded, but it's a live demo. I can move on to the next one. So you can see there, it's showing the actions. So it's searching the CRM and summarizing data. Yeah, you can see there. So it's given me all the information. This is just from a demo account. Um, and you can see all of that there. So yeah, and you can see the sources as well, so that it's gone into different sources that we have within the demo account as well. Um, so just can be a really handy thing. Again, rather than going out of your CRM to go into ChatGPT, you can do this. But we do also have a connector with ChatGPT. So if you wanted to, and with Claude as well. So if you wanted to, you could also use ChatGPT to search the CRM. So it's your personal preference. So if we just go into, if you're doing that, say, research on a company and you're going to reach out, then we can also look at, again, just like a quick win, is looking at how you can generate outreach emails with AI. So say, for example, I'm just going to use a quick, um, just going to use a nice, easy example because I just had a nice cup of coffee. So we're going to say it's a cold outreach email, and we're selling smart coffee machines to the head of facilities at HubSpot. And I want to say we're offering a free implementation fee if you purchase this month. The machines are great for increasing employee happiness, easy to install and easy to use. So just something kind of like that. And then we'll maybe say in a helpful tone, and then you can generate the template there. So again, I'll just let that load for a second. So that one was quite quick. Yeah. So you can see there it's giving you kind of a first version. You can either enhance that or say generate more. But yeah, the prompts there are kind of handy because it's already giving you an idea of what the output will look like, and then you can kind of customize it based on your needs. So those are some kind of easy, like kind of quick wins with AI. I do just want to show you, just to go into a slightly more advanced part, is the agents part of HubSpot as well. So if you want to, you can do some of that yourself, again, using AI as it appears throughout HubSpot. But also we do have different, so that would be more like the Breeze Assistant feature. But we do also have Breeze agents. So we have a number of pre-built agents in beta, but you can also, again, if you want to go down that road, you could create your own custom assistants within HubSpot. For the purpose of today, I'm just going to kind of show you the prospecting agent. So this kind of relates to what I talked about before in terms of like a big part of the sales rep role is really researching prospects, monitoring like buying intent signals, and doing that outreach. So really that kind of, prospecting part of the sales process. And this can all be done with the prospecting agent. So especially again you know, as a busy startup, just think of this as having kind of an AI powered BDR almost to do some of this kind of manual work at the start for you. So I'll just show you what that kind of looks like in the in our prospecting tool. So this is one that I've already kind of set up just to show you what it looks like. So sorry, one sec. Fix my screen. Okay, so for example, you could have different kind of you might have different target accounts loaded in here, and that would kind of be in your ideal customer profile. I won't go into setup. I'll just go through kind of a live case. So say, for example, you are targeting this company, 8 Sleep. You can go in there and you can see different, again, kind of the signals I talked about before. So you can see that they've recently raised funding, and you can also see information on the buying group. So these are different companies that exist within the CRM, and you can kind of see detailed information there. And then you can see if you click enrolled an agent, you can see when the kind of the outreach that has been initiated here. One thing I will mention as well is you can either set up an agent for that you have to approve the outreach. So say, for example, if you're not fully comfortable in the agent doing all of the outreach on your behalf yet, you can still set it so that you have to manually approve it. But if you want it to be able to, just like if you're comfortable with it being fully automated, then that is a option as well. So you can see there, like, and a lot of that information, like gathering stuff on funding sites and stuff like that, would have taken a lot of time. But yeah, you can really see all the details on, it's because it's seen that they've recently raised funding. You can see there that it has crafted a very hyper personalized email based on that as well. So, and then if we just go out of that, oh, we just go into more. So you can see here, if you go into the back end as well, like you can see all of the research that the prospecting agent has automatically done on your behalf. So again, you could do some of this manually yourself, but if you have like very specific target accounts, like this would have taken you a bit of time to have all of that, and you would have been doing it in different systems. So you can see here it's done both internal and external research. So it's gone into your CRM. It's looked at like done its own research on the web for 8 Sleep details. It's looked at recent company news. Like these are a huge amount of resources, right? It's looked at the company values, job opportunities. It's analyzed their product and everything like that. So again, just something really helpful that saves you time. Um, and when you're going into the agent setup as well, another thing you can do is, particularly as a startup, you might have different selling profiles, so different kinds of companies that you're selling to. So you can also set up different kind of seller profiles so that you can really customize the value prop based on that business as well. So you can see that there. And yeah, you can also customize it based on language. And you can also set specific guardrails for the agent as well. So just, yeah, something kind of cool to consider to make things a bit more automated for that as well. So yeah, just want to bring that to life a bit. I do want to have time for questions, so I'll just go back into my final slide. So yeah, when you think about looking at your AI adoption strategy, you really want to think about, well, first of all, before all this begins, you want to think about what tools you're going to use, so um, what's going to be your CRM, and are you also going to couple that with like specific AI tools to help you with that? So just kind of thinking of that as like kind of the pre-step before this. And then think of a clear pilot plan and really select 1 to 2 lead use cases. So as I said, this can depend on your AI maturity as a business and how far you've already gone with implementing AI, but just really thinking about those kind of use cases, thinking about training your team if this is needed. Like if you're a super small team, you can be more agile with it, but just making sure at a minimum you have like a meeting about it, that people are on the same page, like what the goals are and everything like that, so that you can retrack that. Tracking tangible benefits as well. So really seeing like, yeah, what are the outcomes? And then after that as well, just thinking about extending and optimizing. So again, you've gotten those quick wins, maybe from like um the low impact, low effort activities, and then you can really start to build AI throughout more of your sales process, and then maybe go into the marketing side as well. So yeah, would love to, before we moved into questions, if anyone has questions, please use the Q&A box. But just to end, would love to hear, and hopefully there is one thing, is there one thing you're going to implement from this workshop? So this that could the one thing you're going to implement could be simply that you want to do your own research or more tools that you want to use. It could be that you're going to build your own agent. It could be that you're going to, write a killer outreach email with AI. So it could be something really simple. So would just love to give people a minute to share in the chat, and then try to, yeah, I love these sessions to be practical. So try to give yourself a bit of a deadline as well for when you want to complete this. So I'll just give people a minute. If you'd rather not share, if you want to just write it down either. So if people want to keep sharing the chat. Um, Paul Roberts is going to rewatch the recording. That's good. Yeah, you can definitely rewatch and then hopefully take things from it as you go. So if people want to